So, what is your full name?
Archie Keulian. Keulian.
What was your first name that you were born with, though? Your
My
original.
first name when I was born, it's Vagarsh, Vagharshak.
So, what is your birth date?
7/29/37.
1937?
1937.
Where were you born? What was the country, the city?
I was born at that time, it was a Palestine. And then 1947 became half of Palestine, Israel, and the other half state Palestine.
So, were you born in the part that is now Israel, or that stayed Palestine?
From the friends that visited our born country, it's Palestine.
It's Palestine?
Yeah.
What was the country like when you were growing up? Like, what was it like politically? Were there lots of Armenians there?
Well, we were Armenians and lived as an Armenian heritage. And my father worked for English Survey Department in Tel Aviv, which is Israel part of it now. And he was Survey Department engineer.
Well, what did he do? Like, what does that mean?
Well, he was
help
draftsman. That means employees went and measured the streets or bridges or whatever, and he drafted on a piece of paper, made it where other people could read and cut the roads or build the bridges or whatever it is.
Okay. So there was, like, it wasn't like an unstable country when you were living there.
No, it was very stable at the time, but then bigger countries like United States, England, French, they decided to bring in Israel and allow them to make a country of half of the Palestine.
Okay. How long did you live in Palestine?
I was 10 years old when Israelis start bombing our hometown, and we had to leave our town to refugee to Jordan, which is neighboring Arabian country. So I was refugee at 10 years old.
How did you get there? By foot?
No, my uncle sent us a truck, and we put a few furnitures that we might need in Jordan to live in, and we went through the mountains and to Jordan. We arrived Jordan 1947 at around June or so.
So did you take all of your family went with
No,
you?
only one truckload, just absolutely necessary things. And we thought we were going to come back in about a month or two and live our lives happily ever after. But it did not work out that way.
Why not? What ended up happening to your...
Well, we never returned because the roads were closed to the people that left the country. And we stayed in Jordan about 8-10 years.
So, but until you were like 18? 19?
Until 17 when immigration card came in, and we went from New York, from Jordan to New York.
Why did you leave Jordan, though?
What was that question?
Why did you leave Jordan?
Oh, we left Jordan because
Was it unsafe?
Unsafe even in Jordan for us being refugee. And then UNICEF came up with a deal with American help to give up all we had to the new government, which is Israel, and free ride
To America.
to New York City.
So you had to give up everything you had, but you got to go to...
That second time refugee to New York, we landed in New York in Bronx borough.
When you arrived in New York, what was it like? Like, what year was it, and what was going on in America?
It was 1956. America is still America. New York is still New York. From the smallest country to one of the largest country and largest city. We had sponsors in New York City, and they took us to their home. We stayed in their home for about 2-3 weeks, and then we rented a house, and we lived in that house about a year or two.
How did you pay for the house that you were renting? Did UNICEF offer you money?
No, UNICEF did not offer us any money.
Just housing?
It was the sponsors, Armenian sponsors, that they found us a home, and our sponsor, I remember at that time, he was a carpet dealer in New York City, that signed for us that we will not accept any or be burdened to the United States government. And Armenians are the ones that took care of us in New York.
Mm. Did you come with your whole family? Everyone that lived with you?
All the family, yes, 7 of us.
7 siblings, or plus your mom and dad?
Complete 7,
Okay.
Mom and dad and 5 children.
Okay. When you got here, did UNICEF or did America promise you citizenship, or how did that work?
Well, yeah, they promised citizenship, but I had to, being 17, 18 years old, I have to serve in the United States Army. Because of my age, I served Army for 3 years, and then I became citizen.
Was that the case for all of your siblings as well? Did they make them serve in the army in order to gain citizenship?
Yes, because we all were at the service age, and we all served, except one brother. We all served in a different service, Air Force, Army, and the other 2 were very, very young, so they went to college.
What about your sister? How did she gain citizenship? Just by going to school, or?
Well, we all went to school. Some of us worked for a living right away. 2 weeks after we arrived, I found a job in Manhattan. It was very difficult, not knowing where I was going or coming from. Subway, get lost and all that. It was very hard in New York City to transport from one area to another. My sister became citizen automatically. After 4 years, you became citizen. You have to apply for it, give in the green card, and draw a passport.
When you came to America, did you know English or much about America?
We learned English, but not enough to have a city conversation. We took English in the school in Jordan.
Okay.
So we got along pretty well here, arm and hand signal and all, so we did all right until we joined the army.
So you basically learned more English by joining the army?
Yes, I went to school. Daytime I went to work, and then from 7 to 9:30, I think, I went to high school.
Oh, you actually joined high school? Or was that a part of the army?
before the army,
Oh, okay.
I went to night school in Manhattan, in Bronx,
Was it a
Roosevelt High School,
oh? So was that a public or private high
public.
school? Public.
Yeah,
So you got to meet some people too.
I met a lot of people, newcomers all around.
So there were lots of refugees.
A lot of refugees from different nationality, different countries, and we all learned English in everything else that we needed to get along in New York City.
Did people ever treat you differently for being a refugee? Or did America,
Not in America.
people liked
No,
refugees at the
if
time?
people accepted us, we're very grateful that they did at that time. There was no discrimination at all. So I was just one of the boys.
How long were you in the army? You said 2 years?
3 years.
3 years?
Yeah, 59 to 61.
And was that just the required service, or was that, did you
It
do
was required one way or another, but I pushed my draft. So that means I wanted to go to the service and get that service out of my system so I could open up a business or start some kind of business, so I'll be independent from then on.
What did you do after the army? When you got out,
After the army...
did you have a job? Did you...
Yes, I had a job when I left from Bronx, and then when I came back, they accepted me back, but I wanted to come to California, and our relatives were here, and the weather was better than in New York City or in Boston where I was stationed.
So you were stationed in Boston, but you came back because your family, your parents still lived in the Bronx.
Bronx, yes.
Were they, at that time that you got out of the army, were they still renting a house, or did they work?
Yes, we rented a house, 5th floor, in fact, in Bronx, 175th Street. And we lived there. I opened up I came to California. I stayed here about a year and a half, and then went back to New York and Shell School, and opened up a Shell gas station with my accumulated money and my father's help.
So you opened it just on your own, no help with your brothers, other than help from your dad?
No, my brothers were younger, so I helped my brothers actually to get into the Shell station, to jump in business, and then we made it along until about now.
Well, so you started with one gas station.
One gas station.
What happened after that? Did you get more
One gas station, and then we decided to come to California, which was Westminster, and Shell allowed me to open up another Shell station here because I went to Shell school also, and they allowed me to operate one of their Shell station, and they rented to me, and I paid by working 12, 14, 16 hours a day.
So by the time you got to California, you moved out here to
1966.
1966. So that was around the Vietnam War and all of that.
Yes, my brother went to Vietnam. My two brothers went. One was in the Air Force, and one was in the Army, and I was in the Army. So they served in Vietnam. I stayed in the United States and served my time in the United States. Basic training in New Jersey, advanced training in Boston, Fort Devens, and 3 years later, I didn't see any combat, but we went and landed in Puerto Rico for about 3 months and helped Castro to get on power. So that was my service in the army.
That's funny.
And Castro went on power. We kind of kicked Batista out, and then turned out to be our man, that double agent communist. We didn't know about that.
So I know that your parents lived back in the old country. They lived during the time of the Armenian genocide.
My parents, my father's side was massacred, mother, father, the whole family, and he was an orphan with his brother alone. That's a long story. But my mother's side immigrated to Syria, and it was an Arab nation, so they welcomed the people that left before the massacre from a warning, friends and everybody else, that massacre is coming. So they went to Syria and started living over there. None of them were hurt at all other than walked to Syria.
Well, so how did your father get to your...
My father was, his father and mother and the whole family was massacred, taken away from their small town in Turkey, which is Palestinian, Armenian land, rather. And they walked to the orphanage, and American orphanage have saved my uncle and my brother, my father, and brought them to Beirut, Lebanon, into orphanage home. And that's where he finished his study and became an engineer.
So did your parents have to, once they met and got married, how did they end up getting to Jordan, to where you...
Well, they got married 1935. So, and they had twins before me, and they didn't live too long. And then I'm the third child of the house at that time. So they called me the firstborn because I lived, and the others died from milk poisoning in Palestine.
How old were they when you were...
9 months old. Two twins, girl and a boy.
But you weren't born yet?
No, they were 9 months old.
Oh, okay.
And I was born 1937.
Okay.
They were born, my parents were married 35, and the first twins was born 36.
Was it common for young children to die?
More common than here, because they were born at home, and they lived, if they lived, and they died, they died. That's it. That's how it was.
So how much older are you than your next sibling, your next brother?
How old I was?
How much older are you than the next child? Are you 1 year older? Were you
3 years apart.
3 years apart?
Yeah, every one of us 3 years apart. And 1946, my mother brought again triplets, 2 boys and a girl. One boy died, and twins are living right now. One in Newport Beach, my sister. One in Anaheim Hills, my brother, youngest.
Do you and your family feel that you survived or were lucky to have made it out of there, out of your old country? Do you feel lucky to where you are now?
Well, I'm lucky where I am right now. In America, yes, we're grateful for the welcoming us in, but there's no luck involved in this. It's just a decision.
Yeah.
The father decided to leave the country because we were Christians, and being massacred again between Muslims. It's like what's happening right now.
Yeah.
And the Jews. They had a conflict with each other, and Christians were dying for no reason.
So you were a Christian, but they weren't necessarily targeting Christians. They were just killing them
No,
because
they
they
want
were
us.
there.
They want us to leave because new immigrant Jews were coming to Israel
To create Israel, right?
to create Israel. Yes, and there was no room for them at that time, and they still having conflict even today.
Yeah. What is, on the last question, what is the most important lesson you've learned throughout your life now that you've
Well,
lived
the
through
lesson I learned when I was adult and I was discharged from the army, first of all, honorable discharge, and to work hard, to be honest, and be very grateful to United States and to United States people that accepted us with no discrimination at all. It's sweat and blood, actually, but we're grateful for that.
All right. Thank
Decided
you.
to marry me too.
He's thankful for you, Nana.
That's right, sweetie.
Oh, by the way, my wife,
That's right.
my wife is Syrian. If you want to come pick her up. Thank you.
Oh, thank